Hello and welcome to the Unstoppable Joy podcast. I'm your host, Catherine Curry, and I have a question for you today. Do you have someone in your life who is a good hugger? This week at work, there was a lady that I met, and everybody was talking about how great her hugs were. She was known for her hugs. Not only that, but she was extremely generous and very thoughtful and was always giving people little gifts. So it got me thinking about the importance of physical touch and hugs. So that's what we're going to discuss today. So pull up a chair, grab your favorite beverage, and let's get started. I remember when I was little, my aunt giving me this hug. It was a memorable hug because it was the last time that I hugged her. She had ovarian cancer and died shortly after I had seen her, shortly after the hug. And I remember her hugging me and feeling how incredibly loved I was by her. Wow. I want to be able to hug like that, to give people that sense of me loving them. As she embraced me and I felt like it was long enough to be hugged and I started to step away, she hugged me closer. And I think she knew that it would be the last time that she would get. Today I'm just really missing my mom. She passed away about 3 years ago, and I do remember that about her too. Whenever she met one of our friends or somebody new, she was always giving hugs. And my fiance, his mom passed away, 4 years ago, I think now. And that's what everybody says about her too, is that she was always so loving and hugging people, and there is something to that. I want to have that kind of legacy, to be known as someone who loved well. Now, there's different cultures, and some cultures, they are constantly touching one another and embracing, and others, they're so standoffish. There's something so important about physical touch, meaningful physical touch. As I've been going through the Blessing book, as I had mentioned before, the book by John Trent and his daughter Carrie, they did a revision of the Blessing book. One of the topics in the book is all about physical touch and how there are so many benefits to hugging, to meaningful touch. And some of the things are, it actually lengthens your lifespan if you have regular physical touch. You may be aware of or have heard of the studies that they've done with infants, and the infants in the ICU that are in these little incubators, they need physical touch to grow, to thrive. I think about a patient that I had many years ago who was in a car accident, and she was hit by a drunk driver, and as a result, she was paralyzed from mid-chest down. And she had been in this state for many years. She was on a ventilator. She had a tracheotomy. And so as time went on, she got more and more resistant infections. And so she was in isolation in the hospital. So every time we went in to see her, we had to glove up, gown up, mask up. And we're going in frequently to take care of her, to help turn her, to feed her. And I remember she was starved for human touch. And anytime she could, she'd try to touch your face, or she'd touch your ears and say, "Oh, I like your earrings." Or she was just desperate for that human contact. And so often today, we are so busy that we don't reach out and meaningfully touch other people. Now with COVID, that was another thing. we just stopped shaking hands. We stopped embracing. We are hardwired to have that need for physical contact with others. And COVID really put a kibosh on a lot of that. But there were some studies that were done by ELA that found that it's important for our physical and emotional health to have physical touch, meaningful touch, 8 to 10 times a day. And I'm not talking about sex. I'm talking about just meaningful touch. It could be holding someone's hand. It could be patting them on the back or brushing their hair away from their shoulder or kissing them on the forehead. It doesn't necessarily have to be sexual touch. It's meaningful touch. This study showed that it reduces our stress hormones and allows us to preserve our gray matter longer. So that's better for those who are looking for that health boost of memory. It is supposed to help with that. And then it just gives us an overall better feeling about ourselves, and it increases our sense of self-worth. They've also done studies with babies in the ICU and these preemies. They did a study, the University of Miami Medical School did a study where they had premature babies, and they did some massage on these babies for 45 minutes a day, and within 10 days, the massaged babies had an actual 47% greater weight gain than those babies that didn't have that regular massaging. They also did some studies and found that with kids, their bone growth is affected by the amount of physical touch and attention that they get. Kids that were deprived of the physical attention, their bone growth was half of that of the children that had adequate physical touch. So, as you can see, it's a big deal. Another study was by Dr. Dolores Krieger of NYU. She's a professor of nursing there, and she found that physical touch, this is so crazy to me, physical touch affects our hemoglobin. It increases the ability of our hemoglobin to carry oxygen. And it doesn't just increase our hemoglobin for the person that's receiving the hug or the physical touch. It is also for the person that is giving the hug or the meaningful touch. That is just so incredible to me. So basically, like I said, we are hardwired to want and need good physical touch, appropriate physical touch. And of course, Jesus is our example in this. When the little kids were coming to him and the disciples were shooing them away, he said, "Let the little children come to me." And he didn't just put his hand on their head and let them go. He embraced them. He had them come up into his arms, and he blessed them. And he, I'm sure, loved them and tickled them. I can't imagine Jesus not. He also, when nobody else would touch the lepers, and he was the one that touched them. He touched them and healed them. So where does that leave us? How do we encourage? What can we do to reach out and make a difference in the lives of those around us? Well, I believe physical touch is one of those areas. Just like my coworker who's known for her hugs, or my mom or my fiance's mom, their ability to embrace those in their lives, new people, they weren't afraid to hug somebody new. And I just love that. I want to have that kind of legacy of people knowing that I loved them and I love them well. I think about my kids, and I look back and the one thing I regret about not doing more with them when they were little is hugging them. I loved cuddling with my kids, and I did so on a regular basis, but I just feel like I couldn't do it enough. And today, even when I see my kids, I embrace them, and it was so neat at my son Elijah's wedding to have that dance with him. And I just basically just gushed on him and told him how proud I was of him and just what I saw in him and how he was growing into this incredible man and what an example he was, and just being able to bless him, but also do it face to face, embracing him for during several minutes of this song. What an incredible, powerful moment that was. And I just hope I have many more of those moments. The thing is, we never know when our last moment is. We never know when the last time that we will be able to reach out and touch someone. I think about this while I'm in the office and dealing with my patients, and I put my hands on them and I'm listening to their heart and I'm looking in their mouth and talking with them. And I always put my hand on their shoulder while I'm listening to their heart with my stethoscope, just to have that extra physical touch. And at times I pat them on the shoulder as I'm leaving the room and say, feel better soon. I look them in the eye, talk to them, but that physical touch, there's been even more studies where doctors, when they spend time with their patients and they actually put a hand on their arm or a hand on their leg if they're talking to them and they're sitting in the bed, just being able to have that physical contact, the patients come away from that encounter feeling like the doctor spent more time with them, that they were actually heard, they have a better connection. So as we go through our days, I want to challenge you to think about how you can incorporate meaningful touch into your everyday life. I think about those who are single, and I know that there have been singles in my life and that have purposely scheduled times to go see the chiropractor or to go to the massage therapist or to go to the salon because they want that physical touch. What could you do for a single in your life, for somebody who is elderly that is missing their spouse, somebody that is in need of a hug, a pat on the back? Do you have students? Do you have young people in your lives that could use just a squeeze of the hand or just a ruffle of the hair just to encourage them, to let them know that you are caring for them? And the other thing I found really encouraging was how pets play such a big role in this ability to have physical touch. And I think that's why people love their pets so much, is they have that unconditional love from them. And they have that, I love it when my dog paws at me to pet him. He wants that physical touch, and I so love it. They've actually done studies with how if you have a furry stuffed animal or a blanket that's really fuzzy, how that actually is calming to be able to rub your hand against that furry surface or that pet. It lowers your blood pressure. It helps you to relax. It helps to decrease those stress hormones that we were talking about. They found that elderly patients that have pets actually live longer and have better attitude, more positive attitude in life. COVID has really made us more standoffish and less likely to shake a hand or give an embrace, but it's so important that we don't neglect this practice. God has given us each other, and He said it is not good for a man to be alone. And it's more than just in married relationships. We need each other. We need community. And we certainly need a hug from others. And I encourage you to take some time to think about how you can incorporate meaningful touch into your life and the lives of those around you. Be a lover and share Christ's love with others in the form of meaningful touch. Be blessed. So what are the takeaways from today? I just wanted to mention that not only is it so beneficial to us physically, but emotionally and spiritually when we have meaningful touch. The impact that the lady at work had on the people there, and how they stared off dreamily as they said, "She gives the best hugs." One lady even mentioned, "It makes me remember my mom's hugs." When you are able to communicate your love to other people through meaningful touch, it impacts them. We have the ability to impact people's lives physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And that's why it's so important to be able to communicate this kind of love in a healthy way. Meaningful touch is so important. And then I also wanted to mention, if you have a medical facility nearby you, whether that's an assisted living or a nursing home or a hospital, if they would allow you to come in and just sit by the bedside and encourage someone and hang onto their hand, read to them, show the love of Jesus. The other thing is, if you have a pet that is well behaved, I remember so many times people bringing in their dog and visiting the different nursing home or the hospital units that I worked in, and how the people just light up when they see those dogs and are able to touch them, and it reminds them of their dogs growing up or a favorite dog that they had lost. And what a joy it is to bring that kind of light into a place that isn't so pleasant and isn't so happy. People definitely are desperate for a loving touch, a meaningful physical touch in those types of in those places. Of course, you have to have some discretion with sharing hugs. It doesn't always have to be a great big bear hug. Sometimes it can just be a squeeze on the shoulders or squeeze on the hand or hanging on to someone's hand to let them know that you're there for them. I hope you're encouraged by this today, that you got some useful knowledge and insight into some things that you can do to bring joy to your life. And if you like this podcast, please like, subscribe, share it so that others can find out about it. I hope you have a great rest of your week. And again, be blessed.
Have you looked at your power bill lately? I had no idea, but consumer energy's prices have gone up 40% in the last 3 years. It's pretty scary when you think about it. Who knows what the ceiling is going to be in energy costs? And that's why I want to encourage you to reach out to Solar Grids Grand Rapids. This company is been around for over 13 years, and they are providing homeowners and businesses with solar grids so that they can then supplement the amount of electricity that they use, and in some cases, actually sell it back to the electric company. Once you have your solar grids installed, you can lock in your electricity rates for the next 25 years. That's a huge savings if you think about it. And there are also incentives to have solar grids installed in your home, up to 30% of tax rebates. Wow, those are some big numbers. So reach out to Solar Grids Grand Rapids today at solargridsgrandrapids.com and ask them for a free consultation. They'll be happy to go over your current electricity bill with you and see if Solar Grids is a good fit for you. Solar Grids Grand Rapids not only services the Grand Rapids, Michigan area, but all of Michigan and actually the entire U.S. So no matter where you live, give them a call.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe and share this podcast with your friends. The more that we get the word out, the more we can spread that joy and make a difference in our world. Thanks for joining in.